everyone, and welcome to Honoring Our Heroes, a look at the military history in Presque Isle. I'm Sean Cunningham. Presque Isle has had a military presence here dating all the way back to the 1940s, and that rich history still exists here today, and it all started right here at the airport. The original airport was constructed in 1930 by the Civilian Conservation Corps as a commercial airport located 1.5 miles west of the business center. Back in 1941, the federal government appropriated the local airport, establishing Presque Isle Army Airfield for planes bound to and from Great Britain. It was activated as an Army Air Corps field on September 15, 1941. Airfield was reactivated by the United States Air Force and redesignated Presque Isle Air Force Base on January 12, 1948. Parts of the former base were redeveloped as a civilian airport known today as Presque Isle International Airport. And that's what brings us here, to the Presque Isle Air Museum here at the Presque Isle International Airport. We learn more about the museum from Presque Isle Historical Society member Craig Green. Right inside the Presque Isle International Airport is a historical jewel known as the Presque Isle Air Museum. Here you'll see photographs, miniatures, artifacts, all donated and contributed by residents who share a similar resolve to preserve the connection that Presque Isle has had with the military. Presque Isle Historical Society member Craig Green explains how that history began.
Starting in 1940, the United States government recognized that war was around the corner, and because that was happening, they said, we need to annex the Presque Isle Army Airfield, which was what it became, and it was our local airport, and they just said, hey, we need this property because this is on the corner of our nation. War in Europe is probably on the horizon, and all of a sudden, they were starting to build what became the Presque Isle Army Airfield.
But it was really about Presque Isle's significant location.
Planes didn't fly directly overseas at that point in time. Lindbergh did with a plane that was mostly a gas tank, but large planes just couldn't do it. So they had to take hops. So you'd fly to Newfoundland and Greenland and then up into Iceland, and then you would fly over to Scotland and down to England. So those about 1,000-mile hops are how you got across the ocean. And Presque Isle just happens to be one of those destinations that was very well placed to make the planes get from where they had to go to overseas.
A daunting journey, no doubt, critical during wartime and putting Presque Isle on the map as an integral part of winning that war and securing our place in not just military history, but American history. And this museum serves as a site of appreciation of Presque Isle's contributions. And while the pieces in this museum display life as tranquil and easily transitioned, the reality of life during wartime was very real and scary challenges, right in our own backyard. Was there ever concern that this was going to be a target, perhaps, because it was so well known of what you were doing or what they were doing for the defense?
Well, absolutely. We always had items that were of concern. Early on during the war, we didn't have things like missiles or things that really would attack the homeland, but we had spies. Then later, when we went on to our next mission in the late 50s and 60s to be the first intercontinental ballistic missile base with the SNART missile, we absolutely became a target. And I think we're going to go out and look at that location, but I think the really fun part for me is to think about how interesting it is to say that at the time that the first intercontinental ballistic missile was here in Presque Isle, people were farming 300 feet away potatoes because it was not protected by anything other than a chain link fence, and people just didn't know what it was. But it was here because 6,000 miles away is Moscow.
But back to the museum and its mission over time, serving as a resource of information and celebrating our military history. Green says it's an important mission that always remains relevant.
You know, we're a community of great history, great connection to the world, great connection to the history of how the United States was able to spearhead the war effort to win it, or the world would have looked very different for us today. So one, I think, is pride of place. The second is veterans. To honor the memory of those people that served, that gave their lives for us. I think that is something we never can forget. And we need to continue to tell the story of those people that gave of themselves, their families willingly, said, okay, I understand, you've got to go. Some didn't come home.
Green says the museum will be transported to the new terminal when it's built and will be even bigger, with even more artifacts and historical items added, and will continue to serve as a place to pay homage to the military history that happened in this community and pay homage to those connected to it for generations to come.
So I think that's something that we absolutely need to make sure that we as Americans, especially during times of Veterans Day or times right now that are uncertain, that we understand that it's always the military that has our back. It's the military that's going to serve overseas. It's the military that's going to protect our homeland. And so I think we need to tell those stories.
In our next installment, Craig Green gives us a first-hand guided tour of all the military sites throughout our community. For Honoring Our Heroes, I'm Sean Cunningham. Thank you for watching.